In Tower Defense Simulator, there's been a shadow update that the developers haven't told us about, and that is, skills have been disabled in hardcore mode. Now, I still haven't gone through the entire update log and made an update video on like all the improvements and the game changes that they made in v1.67.0, v1.67.3. I've never seen this before. They've made an update log for a middling, minor-ish update. That's fair. However, I do believe that the skills being disabled in hardcore mode was made in the previous update v1.67.0. Anyways, normally down here in this corner where I have the VIP Plus boost, you'll notice that there's none of the skills boosts here. Now, it could be the fact that I've actually disabled skills. However, if I enable it, you can see that these skills are actually re-enabled here. However, if I were to start a hardcore mode game, you'll notice that all of these skills have been removed here, meaning that developers have disabled hardcore mode skills entirely, and there's like no hack around for this. It's not like they bullshitted this by having the UI display but not having the abilities come up. No, they've completely disabled it now. I mean, you'll even notice from my starting cash, normally I would have the boost which increases the amount of starting cash that I would have, so I wouldn't have $700, I would have like $770. That is no longer the case. Hardcore mode has gone back to its original difficulty. Now, obviously, you can see why this is the case. This is because people were using skills to easily beat hardcore mode. Like, people were beating it solo with, like, 2 towers. People were easily beating Infernal Abyss hardcore mode. And people were easily beating Hotspot hardcore mode with the skills enabled, because they give a very small percentage in boost while also costing like 1 billion coins. And this isn't me saying it, the developers themselves said that it gives very small buffs, and we already know that it's quite expensive, so on the wiki we've said that apply small boosts to your towers at a heavy price. However, even a incremental increase in your power in hardcore mode means that hardcore mode becomes significantly more easy. This is because hardcore mode is fairly delicate in terms of its balancing. If there's a power creep, it makes everything significantly more easy. I mean, for goodness sake, when hardcore mode was first released, people were finding it very, very difficult to triumph. I believe like the first triumphs took like over 2 weeks to actually occur. And it wasn't until the military base where people were regularly getting the hardcore mode triumph wins. And even then, that was with a military base glitch. And it wasn't until like various reworks for various DPS towers, including the Pursuit, the Accelerator, the Ranger, the Engineer, the Commander, the DJ booth, until hardcore mode became, I would say, more accessible to like the regular user. Now, with skills, in its totality, there's a lot of things here that you could very easily use in hardcore mode to actually make it very easy. So, I mean, most notable is the Fortify and the Overheal. This means that while Fortify actually isn't actually applied in Tower Defense Simulator for hardcore mode because of the fact that hardcore mode is HP locked, for Overheal, you can actually heal above 100 health, and in fact, you can heal the amount of health that you've lost with bandages, meaning that technically at the very start of hardcore mode, you can tank a load more enemies than you did previously, meaning that early on you don't need to focus as much into early game defenses, meaning that you can focus more on like farming and getting higher level towers for the end game, meaning that you could probably skip out the step of having a suitable tower for the early game in hardcore mode. Then you got stuff like extreme conditioning, which, given the fact that some enemies in hardcore mode have a very long stun duration and debuff duration, then I think extreme conditioning could also be very useful here. Beefed up minions is only really relevant if you're using units. However, I do believe people were using like the mercenary base or the military base to do this, and especially because of that, yeah, you can really use this in hardcore mode. I mean, you could also use it with the Engineer Sentry, but that doesn't really matter given the fact that the Void Reaver at the last level, which is where the Sentry really does need its health to get over the 50,000 damage that the Void Reaver doesn't really do that. But then again, the shields do protect it, the sentries, when they do get the bubble shield. Reinforcements, I don't think really matters too much in hardcore mode. Expanded barracks probably does. It reduces tower spawn rates. That's if you're using the mercenary base, the crook boss, or the military base. Scholar is useless. Again, in hardcore mode, that probably benefits the most from Scholar, given the fact that there are a load of exclusive enemies in hardcore mode. However, given the fact that hardcore mode now has skills disabled, it makes Scholar even more useless. Because hardcore mode was the game mode with the most difficult enemies to get the logbooks for, now that Scholar doesn't work in hardcore mode anymore, it means that stuff like the Void Reaver, Vindicator, Fallen Swordmaster, Molten Boss, Health Cultist, even, I wouldn't say the original Fallen King, but stuff like that, those enemies, you probably still require the original pity kills, especially for the health cultists, to actually get. And I wouldn't say that you probably need to beat the Molten Boss, the Void Reaver, or the Fallen Swordmaster 60 times before you get the logbook. So you're probably looking close to like 10 or 20 kills. But the health cultists, yeah, you may need to go up to 60 pity kills. And given the fact that the Scholar is pretty much useless outside of hardcore mode. I mean, yes, in Fallen mode, the only enemy which really benefits from this are, say, the Fallen Honor Guard, the Fallen King, and that's it. All the other enemies you'll probably get through pity kills anyway. The only enemies which do not appear with such regularity in Fallen mode to the point where you actually would need to get them through random chance is likely the Fallen Honor Guard and the Fallen King. All other enemies have their health so low that you're getting it through pity kills. Polluted Wastelands 2, I mean, I don't know, maybe the Nuclear Monster, but that's about it. I think all other enemies, you'll probably get it through pity kills. Maybe the Nuclear Guardian through the random drop rates, but other enemies probably through the pity kills, so Scholar's going to be useless for that. Badlands 2, all of these enemies are likely to be gotten through pity kills and not random chance. Pizza Party, actually, maybe the Reaper and the Executioner and Rox the Fox, they all benefit from the 3% increase at max level. In fact, the Executioner doesn't even get that. It's 20,000, so what, you're looking at about a 1% increase, if that. In fact, you're looking at a 0.8% increase in the logbook drop rate for the Executioner. Yeah, that's bloody useless. And then tutorial mode, maybe it benefits. The dummy boss, you would actually no, you really won't, because the dummy boss doesn't have 100,000 health. It only has 250. So what, you're looking at a 0.1% increase in logbook drop rate? Nah, you're likely going to get the dummy boss through pity kills. Do I not hammer home my point about the Scholar skill that much? No, because the Scholar skill is bloody useless, and anyone trying to defend the Scholar skill saying, well, actually it benefits some people because they don't have like all the logbooks. No, it's 3% at max level. It's like 0.1% at low health enemies. It's bloody useless. I don't know why you would actually ever go out your way to buy this. It's not 20% that you buy. You don't buy every level 1% of the logbook drop rate. You buy a multiplier of 1. You're timesing it by 1%. 1% of 20% is 0.2. If a logbook had a 20% drop rate, you're increasing its odds each level to 20.2%. And that's not even the case. For the boss logbooks, which have health over 100,000 health, you're looking at 15%. So you're looking at 15.15% increase. That is barely anything. So yes, the Scholar is even more useless than it was previously because hardcore mode has it disabled. The accelerator skill in hardcore mode actually could be quite useful in context of the commander's APCs and the DJ Roofs drop the beat. Scavenger, nah. I mean, to be fair though, given the fact that in hardcore mode you are really cash strapped, maybe that benefits you. Stonks, I don't know. It does require you beating the waves in hardcore mode, which I don't know if you can do that early on, but certainly does benefit you. Bigger budget certainly does benefit you. Resourcefulness, I'm not entirely sure, because, well, the times when you are selling towers is towards the end when you have like a billion coins anyways. Precision, well, back when it was this, it was pretty much useless, so yeah, fair enough. Fight dirty, maybe. Although, that being said, I don't think you really need a support tower in hardcore mode with the skills being enabled. Improved gunpowder, OP as always. Enhanced optics, fair enough. Now, is this to be expected? Yeah, I was very surprised that hardcore mode had skills enabled when it was first released, because when consumables was first released, they were disabled in hardcore mode. Again, likely due to the balancing reasons that I've cited previously, the developers have a really hard time balancing hardcore mode to be actually hard when you have all of these updates that are power creeping the game. Therefore, I was very surprised that when skills were first added, they weren't disabled in hardcore mode, because it would have taken hardcore mode to be very, very easy, and I think they should have just disabled it outright because it would have made the game mode too easy and not hard enough, which is ironic for hardcore mode. When hardcore mode is released, the developers have said that they are looking to re-enable consumables, but they would likely also re-enable skills for hardcore mode as well. However, hardcore mode rework, yeah, we don't know when that's going to be. I mean, Below Natural did say last year that it would be by Thanksgiving that their first leaks would come out. However, that's not the case. We haven't even got the Void Reaver model leak that Below Natural has promised us last year. So all I'm going to say is hardcore mode rework coming, I don't know, 2030. Now, I'd like to make a point where some people have said that the enhanced optics skill is kind of broken, where it says that it always supplies a 10% to 20% increase in its range, whereas this isn't strictly true. true. From Mentin, while it's true that the range displayed in stats is the same as the expanded barracks, because some people think that the boosted range from the towers is from expanded barracks and not enhanced optics. Enhanced optics does work. For Mentin, the boost that was displayed for him was 10%, which was the expanded barracks range at the time. However, the actual range ring and the area in which the tower attacked was what the enhanced optics when Mentin was testing this out. So, yes, while it's true that sometimes that the range ring increases to a point where sometimes it is the skill that's provided by the expanded barracks, the percentage wise at least, it's not the case where you are benefiting from that, because apparently expanded barracks has a larger range increase or larger percentage increase compared to enhanced optics. However, this is entirely just visual. You're not benefiting from this whatsoever. Anything that you see in the game is a false lie. It's only attacking in the range that's provided by the enhanced optics and not to the expanded barracks, even though visually it looks like it's from the expanded barracks.